Proposition 51, School Bonds, Funding for K-12 School and Community College Facilities, Initiative Statute. Plain language, borrow $9 billion in the form of bonds for public school and college facilities and equipment. California's public school system includes 6.2 million K-12 students, 10,000 schools, 950 school districts, 58 county offices of education, 2.1 million community college students, 113 community college campuses, 72 community college districts. When schools run out of space for all current or projected students, or when they have buildings over 25 years old, they are eligible to request money from the state for new land, new buildings, or for renovations. This is done through the Office of Public School Construction. Generally, these grants require the school systems requesting the money to pay part of the construction costs and the state to pay the other part. Poorer schools may request a grant that would require the state to pay the entire cost. This all applies to K-12 schools. For community colleges, they receive state funding by submitting proposals to the chancellor of the community college system, who decides which projects to submit to the state, and the proposals are approved and then funded in the state budget. Renovation and new building expenses are primarily funded via general obligation bonds, and a majority of voters must approve these bonds. The state pays off these bonds by making annual payments from the general fund. In 2016 through 2017, California will pay a little under $3 billion towards debt from past school facility bonds. From 1998 through 2006, voters have approved 4 of these bonds totaling $40 billion. However, voters have not approved any more school building bonds since 2006, and at this point, the money is all but gone. Apart from getting money from the state, schools and community colleges can also issue local bonds to cover building projects if local voters approve them. And since 1998, schools and community colleges have issued $85 billion in local bonds. They can also impose parcel taxes and other less common methods. K-12 schools can also raise funds by imposing developer fees on businesses and homeowners who build or renovate within their area. This basically means that if anybody builds or renovates around a particular school, the school can just say, "Hey, give us money, just because," and then they have to do it. But only K-12 schools can do this. Colleges cannot. What does it do? It allows California to issue $9 billion in general obligation bonds, $3 billion for new school-related construction, $3 billion for modernization of K-12 public school facilities, $1 billion for charter schools and vocational education facilities, and $2 billion for California community college facilities for buying land, building new buildings, and purchasing equipment. It forbids any changes to the school's abilities to charge developer fees to businesses and residences that build or remodel in their district, and forbids any changes to the existing state allocation board process for school construction funding as to these bonds. Finally, it requires that debt from the bonds be paid from the general fund. As mentioned earlier, the Office of Public School Construction would manage K-12 facilities, and the governor and the legislature would include approved community college projects in the annual budget. Long story short, Prop 51 would allow California to borrow $9 billion for K-12 and community college building and renovation projects. It also prohibits any changes to schools' abilities to charge developer fees or to the processes of allocating school construction funding concerning these bonds. Fiscal impact. There are a lot of details and variables that go into predicting how much something like this will ultimately cost, including interest rates, payoff times, etc. It's just like if you were considering applying for a credit card to make a $10,000 purchase. How much will it ultimately cost? Well, it depends on the interest rate and how long it takes you to pay it off. At any rate, it is projected that Prop 51 will ultimately cost $17.6 billion, $9 billion for the principal, and $8.6 billion in interest. The average payment would be about $500 million per year, which is about 0.5% of the state's current general fund budget. 2 special caveats. Natural human behavior is always a factor in the passing of any laws. In this case, the California Legislative Analyst notes 2 potential behavioral outcomes that might arise from the passage of Prop 51. 1. Some school districts may raise more funds locally via taxes and fees in order to meet the local matches that would qualify them for Prop 51 money. This would result in increased numbers of projects in these districts. 2. Some districts that would have funded their own building projects themselves via local funding might relax a little and raise a little less money knowing that they can get the state to cover half or more of these costs. In these cases, the district might complete the same amount of projects as they would have without Prop 51. Put another way, many school districts will have the option of paying for their projects 100% on their own, or they can raise half the money and use Prop 51 money from the state to cover the rest, in which case there would be no increase in projects for these districts. Before we continue, a special message just for you. Now available for the fall 2016 election, The Darryl Johnson Show Voting Aid, complete with titles and brief summaries of each proposition along with spaces for your notes and verdict for you to print out and take with you to the voting booth. It's completely free, no strings, no mailing list, no catch, just helping out the fellow man. Email TheDarrylJohnsonShow@gmail.com. You can write me cute little notes if you like, but to receive the guide, all you have to do is type Voting Aid in the subject line and the power is yours. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. From Yes on Prop 51. Many schools and community colleges are outdated and need repairs to meet basic health and safety standards. By upgrading and repairing our community college facilities, we can increase access to quality, affordable higher education for all Californians. Prop 51 will update and repair our deteriorating schools by retrofitting for earthquake and fire safety, removing asbestos and lead paint, repairing plumbing, and addressing environmental issues. These changes will make sure our local schools are updated and safe for students. Access. Prop 51 will relieve overcrowding. It will upgrade vocational education classrooms, making it possible for students to train for good-paying careers and contribute to California's growing economy. We owe it to our veterans to provide training to help them transition to the workplace. Our community colleges contribute to the economic and social strength of our communities. Prop 51 will increase access to quality, affordable higher education for all Californians and help them avoid thousands of dollars of debt. The matter is urgent. We have a massive backlog of local school projects. A statewide bond is the best option for meeting our construction needs because education is a statewide concern. Prop 51 does not increase taxes. However, if we don't pass it, local property taxes will have to be raised to meet the costs, and this will create inequality between schools in different communities. From No on Prop 51. Since 2001, we've approved over $146 billion in state and local bonds to fix California schools. Yet Prop 51 supporters still claim our schools don't meet basic health and safety standards. Where did the money go? Prop 51 is unaffordable. Bonds are debt that must be repaid with interest. California is $400 billion in debt. We already pay $2 billion a year on state school bonds. We can't afford more debt. Prop 51 is unaccountable. With local school bonds, communities control spending. With state bonds, bureaucrats and their cronies call the shots. Local control is the best way to minimize government waste. Prop 51 is unnecessary. For school construction, local bond measures work better than statewide bonds. Last June, voters approved over 90% of local bonds on the ballot, providing over $5.5 billion for school construction. Prop 51 favors construction of new schools over remodeling existing schools, even though school enrollment is expected to decline over the next 10 years. This is a waste. Prop 51 is inequitable. The funding would go to those first in line. Large, wealthy districts would receive the lion's share because they have the dedicated staff to fill out the paperwork. This shuts out smaller, poor districts that need the help the most. This is morally wrong. We need reform first. Prop 51 does nothing to change the bureaucratic one-size-fits-all state bond program. Governor Brown opposes Prop 51, calling it wasteful and disruptive to existing state priorities. Because spending safeguards are not implemented, bond funds are subject to misuse and fraud. So, spoiler alert, this is going to be a no for me. It's going to cost $9 billion, but by the end of this, we will have paid double that amount by the time we finish all of the interest. That is outrageous. This is how we build buildings? By paying double the price to borrow the money? As they request more money, we are still paying off other bonds from a decade ago, long after the money is gone. This is another move away from a local mindset to a state mindset. Now, I do get the whole inequality argument. Okay, fine. And also, I wonder, how are school facilities supposed to be funded if not with bonds? But can we not save? Or is that too old-fashioned for hip, trendy California? I really don't know what exactly the best solution is, but I have a hard time believing it's paying 100% markup on the fee. If you vote yes on Prop 51, you are voting to authorize the issuing of $9 billion in school bonds. If you vote no on Prop 51, you are denying this request. The Darryl Johnson Show says no on Prop 51.